Hello, everybody. So today we're gonna continue with the story of my awakening and my journey into the spiritual world. And yeah, that's pretty emotional actually, reading the story of that summer. That was really, really hard for me. And yeah, we'll continue today and see what it brings. The first weekend at home again, I met up with Randy. We went to the puppet festival in Almont together, caught up with all the news, and sure enough, we spent that weekend together. On Sunday morning, he asked me to go to Europe with him next month, to which I gladly agreed. Going home was certainly a good idea at this point. We booked the flight that same morning, but that trip never happened for us. A few days after that weekend, I had gone to the shop for lunch, and I have no idea what happened really that changed everything. But I remember leaving there and knowing that this inner knowing that was there, that this was it again. I drove to his house very upset, then left to drive home and experience the time warp again. Thank goodness for the angels uh, that were with me that day, because I know I was very, very angry, and cannot even remember how I got home. One second I was in Almont, the next time I was almost home, and I have no idea how I got there, but I made it home safe. The weeks that followed were still very much in a fog, even though, according to the medical personnel, I was cured. The voices were still there all the time in my head, and I remember one day lying on the couch and crying my soul out. I felt so hurt, and my whole being just hurt, hurt, hurt. In my anger one day, I had broken a picture, and I was talking to my brother through Facebook, and he asked me about it, and I said I just can't comprehend what was happening. And then over and over I heard the voice say to me to go home. And at one point I phoned my brother and I said, I need to go home. I really need to. So he booked the flight for me, and strange enough, somehow, even in the state I was in, I made it all by myself to Austria. Dad picked me up at the airport, and I remember Christine, my stepmother, made a comment about something, and I was so upset I couldn't even see Dad afterwards the whole time. And I realized how sick I still was over the next few weeks. But my sister certainly must have gotten the insight and help from above to do exactly what was right for me during that time and what was needed. They started from the first day on that I was there, taking me on walks through the forest. Even though my sister had brought me to the doctor there right at the beginning, and he prescribed me medication again, which he made sure I took, it was the days spent in the woods that slowly started to change and heal me. After a few days at one sister, I went to my older sister Martina for the rest of the vacation, and she walked daily with me for hours sometimes. I will never forget the time they spent with me to help me heal, and I will forever be grateful. Coming home, I had slowly started to get off the medication, continued walking daily, and within a few weeks I started really feeling being myself again. One day I really noticed that the voices had gone away. It felt really strange at first. After so many months of them being in my head with me, all of a sudden the quietness felt strange. Also, during this time, I knew I had to face one of my worst nightmares. I had to apply for bankruptcy. I was told a few years back that I should do it by a credit counselor, but back then I just got another job on the weekends to keep up with all the payments. Now I just could not avoid it anymore. With my health still not good, unable to work still, I just had to face reality. So after days of sitting on the front steps crying over what was inevitable, I started the process. Sometimes we have to go through these processes to help us understand where things just didn't work well in our lives. And then I went slowly back to work again. Just first, just a few cases, but eventually I would accept more and it worked well. The beginning of November, I went to visit Pearl, Randy's grandmother, on her birthday. While talking with her, I asked her about her plans for the day and realized that neither of her grandsons had mentioned anything that they were coming. I was sure they had forgotten. After much consideration, I did text Randy that day to say it was Pearl's birthday. We hadn't spoken since August, and I had no idea what was going on in his life. He had sent me an email once, the end of September, telling me that he had traded the boat for the trailer, bought land in PEI. He was closing the shop in November and moving to PEI after he sold his house. And I clearly recall how I just burst into tears after reading it. The thought of him being so far away was certainly hurting terrible, even though we had not spoken for all this time. But I remember that at one point in May, during a phone call we had, I had said to him that he had to close the shop. A few months later, that was exactly what happened. I have certainly realized by now that many times we meet people and they tell us things that we just ignore because it doesn't make sense. But if we pay attention, they're all messengers to us in a way. The day after Pearl's birthday, while out on my walk, he texted me back with a thank you. And after a dozen or so of texts between us, he asked me if he could call me again. So we started talking again, followed by a meeting and then dating again. It was a good winter. He closed his shop completely that month and was home. We saw each other on a regular basis, did some country drives, even though it was winter, went for long walks, and just enjoyed our company. Our relationship certainly had gone to a different level at this time. In the meantime, I had started looking for another job, and in January the following year, I answered to an ad in the paper looking for a medical secretary in Ottawa. The next day, I got a call from the nurse at the doctor's office where I had worked right after graduation for a few months, and the next week I started working there. Things were going well all around. I had enough work now again, and our relationship felt very good. Then in February, we started talking about finding a bigger place together. His house was sold, and closing day was the end of March. So we started looking for another house that would work for us. The house I rented had just changed ownership, and the new owner had sent me a letter stating a significant rent increase. So I decided to give my notice as well, since we were looking for something bigger anyways. The time went by and we had looked at many places, but nothing was really working for us. The end of February, I was certainly starting to panic since we hadn't found the place yet. I was over at his house one night discussing the situation when he went to the computer and checked the ads again. And here was the place: 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, garage, backyard, everything on our wish list and more, since the place was brand new. Randy responded to the ad right away, but the next morning I decided to phone and ask if I could come by and see it. The house was still under construction and it was not going to be completed till May, which meant I had to ask my landlord if we could stay another month. That morning, the spirits were certainly with us, in many ways, helping. I went to see the place before going to work. I told him I would be back with Randy a bit later, since I had to go to work first. We went together to see it an hour later, and then while I went off to go to work at the doctor's, Randy got the lease. It all happened within a few hours. That day taught me a very important lesson. Trust the universe. Trust that you can get help. You will get help. So many times today I think of that day and how we got so impatient sometimes and force things to happen when things just take time. The universe wants to help us when we ask and put our thoughts in it. But patience is certainly needed. I've learned that over and over the past 2 years, and never give up. So that's it for today, and we'll continue next time. Have a good one.